Hello, hello, hello. It's Holly Rustic here with Grant Writing and Funding. And I'm here on the YouTube channel and on the podcast. And I'm here to help you grow capacity, increase funding, and to advance mission. To help you do that this week, I have a very, very special guest, a returning guest, I should say, and that is Christina Edwards from Splendid Consulting. Hey, Christina, welcome back.
Hey, it's so good to be back. It's nice to see you again.
Yes. I know we're like chatting up in the green room for quite a while before recording today.
I know. I'm like, we have a podcast to record, but I just have all the questions.
Right. It was fun. I love it. So always developing relationships. I swear you guys, one day I'm going to like record the green room conversations for y'all so you guys can be like fly on the wall. It's actually good conversations.
I mean, I feel like we hit some good topics. We had Facebook ads. We talked about YouTube ads. Maybe we'll weave it in today. We'll see what we can do.
That's right. We'll weave in some of our special secret conversations.
Yes.
But I love that you're back on the show. We had you on the show. So for those of you who are interested, that is back on episode 197. So you'll definitely want to check out that podcast or YouTube episode, which actually, it's been really, really good. I've had I didn't tell you this, but it's actually been a really high download for that podcast. A lot of people are interested. We talked about Instagram. We talked about using Instagram to get donors, and a lot of people are really interested. So kudos to you on that.
Yes. I feel like it's time. It's like so many nonprofits are finally now on Instagram, but I think that now they're getting serious about it, where they're like, okay, it's more than just an arbitrary post here or there. So yes, go back and listen. There's some juicy bits there.
There are. Yeah. You gave here is a process you can use. Bam. So definitely for you guys, if you want to learn how to utilize Instagram more. We are not going to talk necessarily about Instagram today, but we have you back on the show because two things. One thing is I wanted you to talk more about in your ambassador program you had mentioned, as well as how to connect with influencers and utilize them for donor giving programs, so online giving programs, etc. So definitely that is something we are going to nail today. And we also have you coming to do a free live webinar on March 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So really excited about that. And that is 3 keys to standing out on social media and nailing your next online giving campaign. So if you guys want to sign up for that, check out the links in today's show notes. You can definitely join that. And if you're past that date, you listen to this in the future, just join the newsletter list because I'm sure we'll have you back on, Christine.
Yes. If you've ever tried to stand out on social media and you're like, it's a noisy space and no one's seeing my posts and no one knew about our fundraiser, and you're just feeling pretty down about it, like come to this webinar. I will show you the trick. Like it's not about being the biggest nonprofit. It really actually doesn't even matter the size of your nonprofit to completely blowing your fundraising goal out of the water. So I'll have some good examples for you. It'll be fun.
I love that. I can't wait to actually be in that webinar, which I'll be hosting because I'm going to learn so much about it as well. So I do encourage you guys to come because, oh my gosh, even as a consultant, I've definitely been in that boat. I spent all this time creating all of these things for social media, and you might get like 5 likes.
Yeah. You're like, hello, where is everybody?
Yes. You can maybe start taking it personal. I've seen nonprofits go, they're not supporting our work. They don't believe in it. It's like, no, let's not go there. Right. So it might just be, there's some kind of disconnect. Right. So how can you utilize what you've developed? Ooh. So I can't wait for you to talk about that. But moving on to today, we're looking at the ambassador program. You're talking about building up ambassadors, building up influencers, and even defining what that is. Because an influencer, from my knowledge at least, has changed in the way we give them a definition. Like it used to be, they've got like millions of followers, and now it's like, doesn't necessarily have to have, millions of followers to benefit your program. So can you kind of feel free to start wherever you want on them.
Yeah. So ambassadors, as I define them, is really anyone kind of in your world. There's always like every single organization already has that superstar volunteer, that superstar supporter. They can think of them right now who, whenever they need them to show up and do something or to take action or to hop on the phone, like they're there. Okay. So that's like a superstar ambassador. This could also be, it could be a committee member, a board member, a volunteer, a partner, a friend of a friend. That's an ambassador, right? Somebody in your community, a neighbor. somebody who cares about your cause and wants to support your cause. An influencer used to be, and I think you're kind of saying this, is like, my go-to is like Kim Kardashian, somebody with a bajillion followers, who is a super duper celebrity, and who has a core engaged group on their social channels. So that is an influencer. She certainly is one. Mm-hmm. But what my definition is, the mommy blogger, the lifestyle, the home decor person, the personal chef, the foodie person on Instagram. Those people, they might have 2,000 followers, they might have 200,000 or somewhere in between, but they have a group that is super engaged, that loves their content, that is watching them. There is a guy in New Jersey, and I'm watching him renovate his home. I love it, right? And I'm like, I don't know him, but I love his style. He's got this super cool modern style. Like, he is an influencer. I'm going to say he has maybe 50,000 followers. I'm definitely part of his world, very engaged. I'm listening to what he's doing. I'm looking at the light fixtures he's shopping for. I dig them. He's linking to them. I'm like, tell me more. He just painted his cottage black on the outside. It was cool to see the reveal, right? That's an influencer. And I see this entire untapped market between influencers and nonprofits, because there is so much opportunity, especially on a platform like Instagram, where people are, yes, we're consuming content, but the creators are also much of the time, they want the world to be like a better place than it is. Mm-hmm. And they actually are committed to the greater good. Like, we saw that during the political election. We saw that through the social justice movement. Like, they're using their own channels to create change. And for that reason, it is like the guy in New Jersey who has great style. No one's probably asked him to partner on a fundraiser, right? And there could be a beautiful alignment there. Or the mommy blogger who is in Atlanta, where I am, right? Partnering with a diaper bank is such a beautiful thing, because her core engaged group is typically other moms, right? So if she wants to do a diaper drive or a fundraiser for a van, which there is an example of that, like, they've already got an engaged group that's like, yes, I'm listening. This is a cause that I care about. Food is another one where there's so many chefs and foodies and authors and things like that. And then there's organizations that help food insecure households, right? So there's an alignment there. And I think a lot of times the alignment is hard for organizations to see, but it's there. It's totally there. So that's influencer.
I love that, especially like when you're looking at, it's not necessarily the number of followers, it's how engaged are they, and does it align? And it can be in a creative way, but if we just, if only Kim Kardashian could on this thing, but if her thing is about, it's more about in prisons, and she has her own priorities. And if your nonprofit doesn't align with that, it's so far out of scope to begin with. It just doesn't depend on how many followers they have. Right?
Exactly. And it's not going to land. It's not going to land on either. So the influencer, the person posting about it, if they're not passionate about it, if it's not a cause that's near and dear to them in some way, then the content they put out is going to feel kind of like there's a wall between, right? And same thing, if their audience hasn't gone on any journey with them, and a journey could be just a short little story of like why this cause matters, and their audience, it's not going to land with. And it's funny, like you did bring up Kim, and yes, like we know her passion now because she's probably brought her audience on that this is a cause that she cares about, right? And so you have to take your audience on that walk with you to bring them in, if it is a longer walk, if it's not the mommy blogger saying, I want to do a diaper drive, right? So if it's the interior designer that is maybe working with a food insecure household, that might be a longer walk. So let's go behind the scenes. Let's see what, why he cares about it so much. And that can be in like 3 Instagram stories. So a long walk can actually happen in like 30 seconds. That's the beautiful part about social media. Yeah.
I love that. That reminds me, another girl I had on the podcast, Sydney, and she talked about how her son has a genetic disease, right? And it's very, very, very rare. And her husband had his own tech channel on YouTube, and he has like 200,000 followers. So then they opened a nonprofit or joined a nonprofit, and she sits on the board where it helps with research for this specific disease. So what her husband did, even though tech might not seem related to this was he and his friends, they rode their Tesla, across the country. They filmed it the whole time and they raised money for this. And how they tied it in was the tech, component on what they were doing as far as research to actually, raise money for research for this.
Yes.
So it did make sense.
And that's how you're piquing those ears who are like, they're tech people who are tuned in and subscribed to this YouTube channel who aren't immediately donors, right? For this organization.
They have no idea
but suddenly, they've got that like trust factor with him. But then it's the second layer you just said really perfectly, which was the tech piece of like, okay, but needs to be a little more, right? And that was the piece. Yeah. That's a great example.
I've seen it personally. I love it when people really think outside of the box. And I love that you're helping them kind of go there. So can you also then show like, once you identify someone, so it might be, or just maybe start there too, like, identifying ambassadors is going to be a lot easier. It can be, like you said, those donors or those volunteers who are always around, your family members, etc. But the piece I really want to look at is that social media influencer, as far as, do they just start following different people? And like, how do you find
it? Makes me think a little bit. So I teach this process inside my course, Amplify Social Impact, but it makes me think a little bit of like online dating. So like, I'm thinking like whether you're swiping through or you're messaging somebody, it is a little bit like online dating in the sense that like you got to warm them up first. So like where organizations might go wrong is where it feels like a mass email, or, it feels like this cut and paste, very like, hey, will you post this fundraiser for us, please? We're trying to fundraise something, right. And it feels really, really inauthentic for the person on the receiving end. Right. So it is like you're warming them up. You're going to see if both parties are interested. And it starts by following them, liking their content, and starting to develop a little bit of a relationship. Like the PR girl in me. So I used to have a public relations and marketing firm. It was the same way pitching reporters. So you had to develop those relationships. Like if you wanted your client to like get that really great story in that really important publication, you could possibly do it completely cold, but it was a lot easier to develop a relationship with a reporter and say, hey, I've got a story idea. And it's similar where you're saying like, hey, I actually am obsessed with you renovating this house in New Jersey, even though I'm in Atlanta. And your decor choices are really, really cool. And like kind of saying that, or like whatever the thing is, where you're just showing the humanity on both of your parts before you say like, listen, we've got this fundraiser coming up and here's why I think you'd be perfect for it. And the other distinction is when you're working specifically with an influencer, and this is a huge distinction, is it shouldn't feel like committee work. It shouldn't feel like they're a board member. Like this should feel like you invited them to dinner, not a potluck. Like you're saying, come order off the menu, just pick what you want, right? Not, hey, can you come to my house? And by the way, I need you to bring a covered dish and a bottle of wine, like, right? Yeah. And that's where we go wrong. And I see a lot of organizations, they're like, okay, sort of get it on paper, but like, what do I say? Right. And so that's the piece, is like, we don't want to make it feel like committee work, because ideally this is a long-term relationship. This is like, we're getting married here at least, right? So at least we're in a long-term commitment, because I'd like your influencers to be people that you actually go back to again and again, like year over year.
Right. Yeah. And keep them updated on the things that are happening. So audience, right?
Exactly. I mean, this is something too that they feel good about. Like, why is it that, year end, so many people give? It's that like warm and fuzzy time of year. It's not just tax season. It's like the same thing. Like I see influencers again and again around the holidays. It's like, that's when they're more likely to shout out nonprofits. It's like that feeling, right? So give them an opportunity to shout out yours by year over year, developing those relationships. And I would imagine too, it's like, if I'm alongside someone's ride as their follower, where they talk about an organization one year and then they talk about it again the following year, it's like, I get to be a part of whatever gift I made that year and show up in the next year and the next year. It's like they invited me in and then they helped show me like what happened after that. So it's they're bringing you on that customer journey instead of your nonprofit having to bring them on that customer journey, which is, I think, the part that feels so painful about social media is a lot of the time is that you constantly feel like you're just talking to the same tiny audience.
Right.
and that half of them aren't listening anyway. So when you have other people talking for you, with you, alongside of you, it gets a lot easier.
And I love that because going back to, are you hearing crickets? Like when you put things out, like you're just
Yes.
putting out these things, like we're doing a campaign and you're getting maybe just some of the same likes, and how you expand that.
Yes.
Right? How you, because now it's, and it's like algorithms are already always changing. Like I remember when you used to use hashtags and it was magic, and now it's like,
Yes.
does anything sometimes, right? So it's like those things that, but if you're utilizing other people's networks, right, that's where it really shines. So
it's the ultimate organic way to grow. It's the ultimate organic way to absolutely transform your fundraiser. It is the difference between your fundraiser going like kind of inching towards the finish line and going past it, is having an ambassador program in place. And since we sort of talked about influencers, some people would be like, oh, I don't even know where to start. These are so, this feels overwhelming. Start with the ambassadors.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone today, and I want to say their organization had maybe a budget of 200,000 a year or something like that. She was like, we raised over $80,000 just because of our ambassadors year end. Like it was one campaign. And I'm like, of course you did. Of course you did, because they made it super easy. They had an engaged group, and it wasn't just them with those direct mail pieces or them with like the social posts. Like you need that. And a lot of times that's really, really an important piece of it, but it's not the piece that helps you scale, right? And it's not the piece that helps that foundation of like, how do we cultivate a younger audience? That's something people are constantly saying, and ambassadors online and influencers online are such a great way to start.
I love that. And I love it to think like your ambassadors, it can be your friends. It can be the people that volunteers, and they don't need to have a million friends, and they don't need all that. If they're really passionate, and as ambassadors they are, about your nonprofit, then when they share it, even if it reaches 30 people and like 3 of those people give and become like ongoing donors, like there is a ripple effect, right? So,
I've watched myself be, I don't know what the word is, like it's a friend be an ambassador without realizing it, and go, oh, I've never heard of this organization. Yeah, I'm going to give. She asked me to give. I'm going to give. So it's like I've been directly impacted by somebody simply saying on Instagram stories or saying on Facebook, like, guys, have you heard about this organization? Here's why they matter. And it's 4 sentences. I'm in, I'm done. Right. It's easy. And that's just such a powerful thing that you cannot recreate. And I know we were talking about ads earlier, and it's like, you can't put enough ad dollars beyond somebody's social proof, somebody I trust, a friend of mine, a coworker, a colleague, whatever, a neighbor saying, I'm thinking of now of another one in our neighborhood saying, go give to this person. And I'm like, yes, I'm in. You asked me, I got this. Right. And it's so powerful when they do it online, because I'm thinking of my friend. I don't even think she ever knew that I made a gift, and she didn't need to, right? I was just right. Like it was just like 2 clicks. I got you. I'm excited you told me about this organization.
yeah.
So that's what's fun. Like that's the fun part of social media too.
I love that because beyond influencers, we're more, it's like, that's the next level. But right before that is if I'm related, or if it's friends, it's people I personally know and they're talking about something, I trust it way more. I trust
exactly.
Like I trust in my family, right? So when they say good to this organization, I'm definitely like, I'm down, right? So it's like, and then the influencer might be the next one. I might not have a personal relationship with them, but I really respect them and I follow what they do, and you know what I mean? So then I'm like, okay, I'm at least gonna go look into that and potentially give as well.
Yeah, I mean, these influencers, so many of them, this is their full-time job. So they're making money through affiliate income, through people like me clicking on a link for a light fixture and buying it, right? Or a sweater or something like that. So that shows you that when they say to their audience, I love this sweater, people buy, right? So think about that when they're saying to their audience, this organization is so important to me, and here's why, or I just found out about it. You guys got to check this out. People are like, okay, I'm listening.
No, talking about that was actually an interesting thing that you just brought up, because I totally understand affiliates with like maybe for-profit products like you're talking about, right? And those types of things. Like I'm an affiliate on some products. You know what I mean? Like, and But when it comes to nonprofits, should they be paying influencers?
Okay, I'm glad you asked this question. So the answer could be either. Like it could be both. You could think of a nonprofit like American Cancer Society or Habitat for Humanity. Like let's think of a large one, right? They likely have like a media advertising budget. Like, are they doing digital ads every year? Are they in a couple of print magazines still? Maybe they're doing radio, right? So organizations like that, where there is a specific advertising budget each year, oh my gosh, yes, go for it. Because it gives them the opportunity to be really selective on who they choose. It fast tracks the process of like what I was talking about dating, like it fast tracks that dating process because you're willing to pay. And you think of it as advertising. The reason why they should do it is those three pieces. And the other piece is they'll have control over the creative and the copy a lot more. Okay. So the process that I teach is the organic process. So not that process, not the process where we are saying influencer A, I would like you to pay you $2,000 for this series of posts, right? Process I'm teaching is organic and we're looking for in kind and we can totally do it. It happens all the time. And it's perfect for organizations really of any size. And it still doesn't take months and months and months or years and years and years. It still is a quick process, but yes, we're looking for in kind. And the difference here is because of that, that means that you don't have as many, like creative say on like, I want you to post this on Wednesday at 10 a.m. with this copy and this exact image. And I want the link. And then I want you to tell me who clicked the link. Now, listen, if I have an agreement with them where I'm paying them money, I get to say all of that. And then I get to say, and I'd love to see, and I want to see the reporting and and I want 5 Instagram stories. So you get a lot more control on the front end and on the back end if you're paying for it. I would think of it exactly like running an ad, right? Same thing. If you're not, then you don't get that control. But the process I teach makes it so easy that the person ends up swiping it. So they use your graphic, they take your copy, they might slightly change it into their voice, but you want them to do anyway, right? You want them to adapt it. They might not post it the week you want them to post it. They might post it the week before. They might post it a few days early. That's okay. You might ping them and remind them to like share it to stories. So it gives them more flexibility. But when you give them a toolkit, you're actually, yeah, exactly. So it's a both. It's a, what does your campaign need and what does your budget look like? It's both.
Right. And I think for a lot of smaller nonprofits too, I mean, is that something to watch for is when influencers turn around, they say, I'll do that, but I charge. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they're like, sounds interesting, here's a rate sheet.
Yeah.
Then which some might, then you know that that's not a fit. I would keep going. If your goal is, I want to get 10 influencers this year and I want them all to be in kind, I would keep going. I would be very gracious to that one and say, unfortunately, we don't have a budget right now. I'm keeping your rate sheet aside. I absolutely love what you do. Thank you for, connecting with me. And I would keep them. I would keep them in your world and keep cultivating them if you felt like they were truly a good fit, because that might have even just been like a canned response from them, because don't forget, they're getting random product requests all the time and things like that. And their canned response might be, here's my rate sheet. So yes, I would just keep going past that. And I would have a little, Excel doc or Google doc or something where you're just tracking who you're contacting.
I love that. And I love, just because a lot of us might think, oh gosh, they want money. How could they want money? This is a nonprofit. But we got to think of, they get requests all the time from different nonprofits. They might not realize even that you're a nonprofit. It could just be their canned response. So it could be their admin assistant monitoring their email, and that's what they send out. So, and the other thing is maybe they only have a select few, like they have one that they're actually going to do pro bono, and then the rest they're going to do paid. So, it might just be like they've already had that slot filled this year or whatnot. So, but I love what you said about send them a reply. Don't just say, oh, they said no.
Oh my gosh, no.
And keep them on your radar, right?
Yes. Again, I'm putting back my PR hat. Like the PR girl in me is like, okay, invite the reporter to lunch. Reporter says no, she's busy. Don't be like, I'm out of here. I'm never responding to, I'm never emailing her again. Listen, you might run to the reporter at an event, and before you know it, like I'm thinking of my friend Leah, who is a fabulous journalist, and she's now my internet friend we've been DMing, and she's been writing stories for years and years and years. So like, just keep it going, just keep it warm and keep it upbeat. And it's totally not personal. You have no idea, like you said, if they just finished a fundraiser, if they've already outlined their kind of charitable partners this year. If that was a canned response, there's a million different things. So but keep going. And I wouldn't get bogged down on it. Just be like, okay.
Yeah. And I love that. And then you'll know, okay, that wasn't a good fit for what we're looking for now. So
it might even give you a little context of like, okay, if I reach out to 5 people that are in, the kind of food chef driven sector, and I kind of didn't get much traction there. Let me make a shift, let me see about this sector here or something like that. Going back to food insecurity, it's like, okay, let me talk to all the people who in the South, like everybody is like growing their home garden, tons of like plant lady accounts. Okay, let me go down that path, where like, I'm still under the umbrella of like food, health, wellness, like go under that, but like, let me go about it in a different way.
Right. And I love that. Like looking at, it's not like you would go to necessarily like the Home Food Network and ask for a donation, like have them be an influencer. Like you want to start with something more relevant and more local potentially, or just more in your right. So
absolutely. Yeah. I think local's great. It's a great place to start for so many nonprofits. There's a few where whoever, where they serve is either in an international or it's just, more wide, but yes, local is a great place to start for sure.
I love that. And then, so once you're working with them as well, and then just keeping up the partnership, right?
Yes.
Building out things. I think another thing too is if you're getting a lot of no, sometimes it might be because of the copy you might be sending them, or
it's like, was the ask too big? Like, was the ask like where they were like, oh gosh, this feels like committee work, or like, I have no idea. Did you ask too much? The other thing we didn't really talk about was, did you give them enough lead time? So again, if this is a full-time influencer, this is their business.
Yeah.
So think about their content calendar. They might have a big partnership happening for the next 8 weeks booked out, right? So did you give them enough lead time? And that would be another way you could even handle the objection of no. If they said, no, it's not a fit, be like, we actually have a fall event happening too. Would it be okay if I circle back? Or like, how far in advance do you plan your content? I know that some of our partners in the past go really far out, 6-8 months. Like, how far in advance do you plan yours or something like that? You could go about it that way. So you have to remember, of like, was it too big of an ask? Did it feel too hard? Were you even clear on what it was? Did you type a marathon and they just skimmed it? So you can go back and kind of review your process.
Right. I think that's great. And, a lot of influencers, though, they might be also looking you up on, different places online to make sure that your nonprofit's credible, right? So just making sure, Google yourself, what's coming up, Google your nonprofit.
Yes. And that is why that's why your social networks are so important. So like, don't go in there with a janky Instagram account where the last thing you posted was 2 years ago, right? Or your profile picture is a pixelated thumbnail, or the link in your bio doesn't go to the right place. Yes, it's like a little bit of like, put on your best self, get resume ready, like you're getting ready for an interview, so that yes, you look professional and your organization looks like the real deal.
I love that, because that could just be a quick them going, oh no, you know what I mean? So that real quick, and it's like, and you're just like, didn't even see it, because a lot of times we don't look at our own things, like, right? So we don't pay attention to those. So it is like, I like that. Get your best suit on. Right?
Yes.
Get your best virtual suit on. So make sure
exactly
on Google and on different feeds. If you want them to post on Instagram, what does your Instagram account look like? Or on LinkedIn, what is your LinkedIn account? So wherever that medium is, like, what is yours, right?
Yes, I was chatting with somebody yesterday, and at the time we're recording this was like, they had their pop-up, their website, everything was going to a fundraiser that was like 6 weeks old. And you're like, okay, oh yeah, right. So it's like, change it out, change it out. Yeah.
So much. Yes, especially as in the new year, as we're coming in, like,
Yes.
we're like going into second quarter, and it's like, yes, we need to make sure that we have everything.
Yes.
So, okay, this was fantastic. I love this conversation. So many gems, just like before, of like how to actually do this. So I know people are walking away from today after listening or watching and going, I actually have a plan of what I can do for my fundraiser. Like, so thank you so much for sharing that again, Christina.
Yes.
Yeah, like a step-by-step.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yes, thank you for having me on. This is, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, it's actually a pretty simple process. It's the matter of just doing it. And then if people get stuck, come inside my program, I'll show you how.
Yes, and we'll definitely have links to that in the show notes. So please make sure you guys check that out. And if you want more of Christina, definitely we come to the webinar.
Yes.
And it's March 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Three keys to standing out on social media and nailing your next online giving campaign. So I know you're definitely going to be giving away a step-by-step on how to stand out and how to actually go through the process.
I am teaching my storytelling formula that I just love. So you'll get that 3-step formula, and it's super easy to tell a story if you feel like you're like not good at writing, right? If you don't feel like copy comes quick or easily to you, or you feel like I don't know what to say and I don't know really the stories to tell, I'll be teaching that during that webinar.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have you back on the podcast yet again. So we'll let people know when that comes up, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you for joining me, Christina.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun. Great to see you again.
Yes. All right. We'll have you back on.